Brian and Kenzie in the morning. And Chicago's alternative all day.
Q101.
Kenzie's Krimes.
Milwaukee police found body parts in a North Side apartment.
Not because I was angry with them, not because I hated them, but because I wanted to keep them with me.
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
This is evil, what those people have done to me.
C says Heaven's Gate awaiting.
I'm not guilty.
Q101.
Brian and Kenzie on Q101 with another edition of Kenzie's Krimes, a deep dive into a murder, mystery, drama, something that happened here in the Chicagoland area. And myself and Case don't know what she's bringing to the table. So we all sit here together around the campfire and listen to Kenzie tell us the story.
Brace yourself because it starts kind of heavy, okay? In the summer of 2003, the body of Sabrina Payne was found dead. She was known to support a drug habit with prostitution. Officers believed that she had died of an overdose. However, one officer claimed that he had a bad feeling, which was confirmed as more bodies started showing up in the Peoria area.
Wow.
On February 5th, 2005, Barbara Williams was found in a ditch near Edwards, Illinois. Toxic levels of cocaine were found in her blood system. In October 2004, Shakonda Thomas was reported missing. Shirley Trapp was also reported missing in the summer of 2004. Tamara Walls was reported missing in the summer of 2004 as well. All three missing women were addicted to drugs and were known to support the habit with prostitution. Laura Lower was the mother of 8. She had a longtime boyfriend who was the father to all of her children. He described her as the love of his life and a beautiful soul. However, Laura also unfortunately suffered with addiction issues. On September 25, Linda Neal's body was found on the side of the road. She was also known for having a drug habit. Officers felt there was a serial killer at this point in Peoria targeting Black female sex workers. And then another body, Brenda Irving, was found in a ditch in 2004, also with fatal levels of cocaine in her system. Officers reportedly followed up on thousands of leads and then started protecting and basically circling women that they thought would be targeted next. In October of 2004, a special task force was formed to help with this insane nightmare. In December 2004, a sex worker named Vicky Bomer was arrested for theft. She decided to share information with the officers to be hopeful for leniency in her own case. She told them she believes she knows who's been responsible for all the murders and missing women. According to her, in July 2004, a man named Larry Bright lured her to his mother's home where he offered her drugs and alcohol. Once she was intoxicated, he tried to assault her. He even pulled out a knife. Luckily, she was able to escape. Police officers were initially skeptical because she wanted a plea deal in order to testify this information. Also, they were wondering why she didn't report this incident earlier. This happened to you a long time ago. She said that she was scared to come to the police because of her outstanding warrant. Once they checked the timing of her warrants and realized her story checked out, they decided to jump in to who is Larry Bright. And I will tell you, we're about to do a background on Larry Bright. It is absolutely terrifying. Obviously, we've set the table as to why this would be terrifying, but you won't believe where he lives, who he lives with, and who else was probably okay with what was going on.
Yikes. Well, he's already mentioned his mom's house, so. Coming up, the conclusion to Kenzie's Krimes with Brian and Kenzie on Q101, 3 minutes away.
Brian and Kenzie.
On Q101.
Brian and Kenzie on Q101 with the conclusion of Kenzie's Krimes, and Kenzie laid out a very horrific serial killer type situation in Peoria. You can take it from there to give us the final answers on this whole thing, Kenzie.
Right. So I listed 8 different women that either their bodies were found or they were reported missing in the same year or two span, about 15 months. Then one sex worker came forward after she got arrested for theft and said that she believes she knows who did it because she was attacked but was able to escape. So then officers decided, let's do a deep dive on this person, Larry Bright. He was born in Peoria, July 8th, 1966. Larry was always a lot, to say the least. He got in a lot of trouble for theft and robbery cases, which in many instances, not all, is a precursor to worse crime. According to Larry's family, the time he spent in prison for those crimes changed him for the worse. He was angry and he began using drugs. He was also addicted to pornography. He lived in a little guest house behind his mom's home, so like on her property, and he apparently did enjoy creating a beautiful garden for his mother. So it seems like his one soft spot in life was his mom. and he tried to do a lot of things to appease her.
I guess that's sweet. I mean, he's a bad guy, but sweet that he did the garden.
I guess that he cares about his mom's good. So Larry was placed under arrest for the unlawful restraint of Vicky Bomer. That is the woman who was able to get away. They questioned him about the murders, and he denied any knowledge of it. And during the extensive questioning, he smoked multiple cigarettes, and the officers had intended to keep a cigarette butt once he was done with it to test for DNA. Before leaving, he ate them and swallowed all the cigarette butts.
Smart. Yeah.
And then he said that he would not give his DNA voluntarily. So he was smart enough to swallow. I'm sorry, you swallow a cigarette butt because you don't want them to have your DNA. It's just, you're guilty. I don't care what anybody says. That's insane.
He's also not going to offer up fingerprints at that point because he just ate cigarettes. He
Yeah,
could have just
not
gave you a
good.
cigarette. I don't think so.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
So the task force did not give up because he wasn't willingly giving his DNA and things like that. And he couldn't be like in jail for a super long time just for like the restraint of Vicky. On January 2005, not long after, they finally got approval for a search warrant of his property. Upon the search, they found tons of disturbed ground. When they do aerial searches and stuff, they can scan out disturbed ground. It's something that they often look for. Larry Bright's mother claimed they were removing raspberry bushes as well as doing the gardening. Luckily, the police were not convinced of that. They decided to dig into those disturbed ground spots. They found human ashes as well as bone fragments. Larry broke down upon them finding this and starting the questioning process. He admitted to the murders and started leading officers to some of the other remains on the property. Larry Bright was then arrested for murder. Larry admitted to what he had done, and he said he would lure sex workers with the promise of drugs and money and alcohol. He would get them to his place and then often strangle them during or after sex. But the most horrifying detail and what earned him like this crazy name, and you may have heard this before, is after he would burn the bodies, if there was any bones that got left over, he would crush them with a hammer to try to break them up. That's why they found all those bone fragments, and it earned him the nickname the Bone Crusher. A lot of times when there's serial killers like this, they like to find like, did you do this? What's going on in your psyche as they try to understand this process. Larry Bright first claimed that he had a hatred for women because he got HIV from a sex worker, and that's why he was punishing them. However, he tested negative for that disease, and that was quickly debunked. His second reasoning that he said he had been abused by black inmates in prison, and that's why he was attacking these women, because it is very important to note that he was targeting black women. So in May 2006, Larry Bright wanted to agree to a plea deal because he wanted to save his mother the embarrassing of a public trial. Like I said, his mom was always his soft spot. He agreed to plead guilty to murder, but be spared from the death penalty. That was the deal. So in May 2006, he pled guilty to 7 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of drug-induced homicide. He is now serving life in prison without the possibility of parole. And it is important to note that Larry at one point claimed he murdered other people in other states as well, but recanted that statement. And just as mentally unstable as he's been, it's really hard to figure out what the truth and what isn't in his statement.
Kenzie's Crimes.
Milwaukee police found body parts in a North Side apartment.
Not because I was angry with them, not because I hated them, but because I wanted to keep them with me.
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
This is evil, what those people have done to me.
C says Heaven's Gate away team.
Q101.